Firstly, the budget. So someone even asked what is the budget to begin with? So the federal budget is simply the government's yearly financial planning detailing where it'll collect money and how it spends it to run the country. And all countries tend to do this. So think of it as a household budget. Now, why should ordinary families? Now, this matter of the budget, to be honest, for those who lived there for many years, the budget never really mattered for many years. Came and went, year in, year out. What has changed? The world has changed. That's what's happened. Cost of living has changed. Global dynamics have changed. Our community has changed. We're no longer a small community as we were before. The economy has changed. So really look out for nowadays, especially, is debt, especially specifically credit card and what I call the buy now, pay never. Or buy now, pay later, but I prefer to call it buy now, pay never debt that people quietly acquire and becomes an affliction. A question I get often is, what should families understand before taking large homes or mortgages? One is the real cost of debt. Loan repayments are more than rent. So just be mindful and aware of that interest rates change, etc. So loan repayments are more than rent. Secondly is financially stress yourself, financial stress testing. Can you afford the loan repayments if rates go up, payments increase?
Just before we begin, I would just request if Sarah, you can help us do our first prayer. Sarah is part of my team, so she just open us with the word of prayer before we begin.
Okay. Let's bow ahead for a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you. We give you all the glory. We give you all the honor, God, for everything that you have done, oh God, for your grace, your mercy, your love upon us, oh God. As we start this Zoom sessions, oh God, I ask you to be with us, Almighty Father, Lord, and I pray that each and every person is going to go home, oh God, having grabbed something, Almighty Father, that from this is going to help us, my Father, Lord. Thank you, God, for your love and your grace that's upon us. In Jesus' mighty name we do pray, trust, and believe in. Amen.
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 I'm so grateful that you have taken your time to join us, and what I'm envisioning for this conversation, I know the poster says, what does the Australian budget mean for me? I want it to be so practical for us and in simple language and how we can implement as women. I'm very passionate about women education in finances. And you might be wondering, the poster said exclusive ladies only. You can see Justin here. And and if you're a man and you registered, that's fine. Keep Justin in company. That would be nice to have Justin and few other men joining, because I know anything to do with finances, everyone can gain something. And yeah, so one thing I'm really passionate is what I'm saying about simplicity and making sure that whatever we learn today, we can go and implement it in our lives, and in our day-to-day lives, we can learn something that is more easy to implement. Because what I find with most, maybe a lot of financial talks, they might be hard in terms of the terms. Not that they are hard, but the terms might be difficult to comprehend, and that's what Justin is doing for us in regards to this budget. Before I continue, just want to put a disclaimer. This information session does not consider any personal finances for anyone who has joined today. So it is just basically for education purposes. If you need any specific financial advice, please seek a financial advisor or for your individual circumstance. You might be asking who I am. So my name is Anne Mureithi, and I'm a faith-led family and wealth coach. And my business name is Mindful Family and Wealth. You might be seeing back on the poster. And I run a 8 weeks program, which is called Financially Mama Rising Mastermind. And this is to help women build peaceful, intentional finances through my Peace Framework. And in my Peace Framework, I help women picture their vision, what they really envision to do in their life, evaluate what is holding them back, and this can be overwhelm, fears, or anything that is holding them back towards getting more ahead financially. Also, align their goals, which make sure they know what their long-term vision is, what is their financial freedom number, and from that we create simple actionable step where they can follow. And in this we look into budgeting, savings, debt reduction, and also maintaining healthy habits. And my last aim is E, which is elevation, whereby they don't only learn for themselves, they can teach those skills to their kids. So my main work is coaching and empowering women to build wealth through healthy money habits. So tonight you can see Justin, and I'll just request him to introduce himself and share a bit of his background on what he do and why he can talk to us about budgeting in Australia.
Thank you. Good evening to you all. Thank you, Anne, for the invite. Hope you can hear me loud and clear. Thanks for get on the initiative, Anne. It's good to see someone step up and take an initiative like this to inform and enlighten the community members in a matter that has a significant gap and continues to have, not just our community, but many others, which is just empowerment in family financial literacy and related matters. And requested me to join. Background-wise, I'm in financial services the last 20-odd plus years in Australia. I've been a banker and also now work self-employed, and worked at the bank in various areas or sectors, from commercial to asset finance, the business banking, etc. And now me and my partners have a financial services firm. This is our third year actually, 3.5 years, and going quite well. And I'm also part of a different initiative called Financial Literacy Forum with Rolly and the team. So just part of supporting the community, and because knowledge is power in this country we live in. Married with kids, and part of the old school of Melbourne. So we are the ones who came, and there were not many Black people here. So, but times have changed by the grace, and good to see the community has grown in breadth and depth. And Asante, Anne, and thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much. That's lovely. You reminded me that I didn't say that I'm a wife and a mom of two. I got carried away by the next session, and I'm married, having two small kids, and loving the motherhood journey and the financial journey as well. This evening we'll be talking about, I'll just give you an overview how it will work. There's a lot of questions you ladies have sent to me, and that was amazing because I have had a lot of questions that we can discuss today. And Justin, we have other ladies joining. I'm not sure if you can just go into your inbox and just introduce us. They are from everywhere. They might be from different states. So if you can get into the inbox and just tell us your name and where you're joining us from, or just say where you're joining us from, that would be nice. Even though you can tell us your suburb, that would be nice, just to create some engagement in the chat and see if the chat is working actually. So you feel free to say hi, and if you have a question that you didn't ask, who might be able to get there by the end of the session. We have a lot of questions that were asked by the ladies, Justin, and the overview will be what does the current budget state, and what does it practically mean to us as women, and then how can people prepare in regards to what has been said. And I will be raising questions, and you can tell us how we can go about every sector, and we'll go in different sections. We can go to the cost of living, buying properties, investing, building wealth, and also other legislation that have changed in regards to different sectors that have been having more. Oh, thank you, Joyce. You're from Cranbourne now. Thank you so much. So that's the alignment that I would like us to go, so that everyone can get something and they can be able to implement it in their life, and they can be able to prepare it strategically. Because what I have heard from social media, there have been a lot of emotions in regards to this budget. I'm wondering, what is your take from there, Justin? There have been a lot of reaction in this budget this year.
Thank you, Anne. So firstly, the disclaimer is important in my industry. So just say that the information I'm providing here is just general information for education purposes only, and obviously doesn't constitute financial or investment or professional advice. And I encourage you to seek tailored advice that suits your circumstances. But nonetheless, this initiative is much needed and timely. So we'll also, Anne and I agreed, we'll use very simple terms because we all come from different walks of life in terms of, our understanding of financial literacy. So we'll use simple language, Anne, and we'll keep it as straightforward as possible. And because of that, we said we'll make it a conversation rather than me overpowering you with PowerPoints and this and that. So we'll just simply have a discussion. It's only 1 hour. So happy with that, Anne?
Yep, happy.
Excellent. So firstly, the budget. So someone even asked what is the budget to begin with. So the federal budget is simply the government's yearly financial planning detailing where it will collect money and how it spends it to run the country. And all countries tend to do this. So think of it as a household budget, but for the entire nation. And it outlines how money is coming in and how money is going out, and basically breaks it into revenue, money in, and expenses, money out. Now, why should ordinary families? Now, this matter of the budget, to be honest, for those who lived there for many years, the budget never really mattered for many years. Came and went, year in, year out. What has changed? The world has changed. That's what's happened. Cost of living has changed. Global dynamics have changed. Our community has changed. We're no longer a small community as we were before. The economy has changed. So because of those changes, things that people never used to pay attention to, they are paying attention to them now. And the budget is one of them. And that's one of the things we'll discuss today. And hence why I hear the noise in the media or in the community about the budget, which was never there before. Most budgets actually came and went without people realizing it. Some people, if they're honest, this is the first time they even cared about the budget, purely because of the changes that have happened overall, not one thing, overall, in the country and worldwide too. Why should ordinary families pay attention? Well, they should, because the budget directly impacts household finances, job security, and even community services. The decisions made in the budget can determine tax rates, family benefits, and funding for essential programs like healthcare and education. And how does the budget affect everyday household? It can directly determine your personal tax obligations, and we'll discuss that a bit. It can also determine the cost of essential services, as I mentioned, like childcare, for example, and also the overall strength of the economy. If you're, for example, in the construction industry, there's a lot of noise. That's where most of the noise is, because this budget is impacting that industry quite a bit. And don't forget one thing about the budget, this is very important. This is a proposal. It's not law yet. It's the government proposing changes. So these changes have to go to the lower house and they have to go to the Senate. And already there's been some compromise on the government side that some changes may or may not be effected, or they'll be changed. So just be aware of that the budget so far for this year is a proposal, like any other year. So it hasn't gone to law yet. And there's a battle awaiting the government in that regard. So just to make it clear that that is what's happening with that. So again, budget proposal can shape can determine your weekly income, your long-term investment, and even the cost of living in general. So that's what the budget really means for ordinary families. And hence why, because of the current change in cost of living over the years, it matters so much this year. Hope that just in general terms answers that question, and in terms of the budget and the cost of living. Now, I could touch on women and families if you want, Anne. Is that okay?
Can we just, in terms of the budget and the cost of living, I'll just
Mm,
say I have had a lot of questions in regards to that because,
mm,
like, I'll just use my instance. When I was going to shop before,
mm,
200 was worth for 2 weeks. At the moment, I think it's going for 1 week. And in the current budget, is there a way that we can, they have support, they have provided
mm.
support and relief for an everyday Australian family or a mom or yeah.
So, so what the government has done in terms of, because they're both intertwined in terms of cost of living and families, because
Mm,
really that's one and the same thing, so to speak.
yeah.
Um, so what the government has done is, for example, with the tax rates, now I don't want to get into details here, so I'll keep it very high level, as we agreed. And so, in terms of tax rates, for example, the government has proposed an adjustment to the tax rate for, especially for the lower income, so to speak. So, the tax rate at the moment, I think, is about between certain thresholds is about 14%, and the government is proposing to reduce that to this financial year to 16%. And again, so the tax rate between 18,000 and 45,000 at the moment is 16%. The government also dropped that to 15% for as of July this year, and then further again to 1 more year by next year. So that again will have a difference in terms of how much money in the pocket, so to speak. Related to that and more to do with ladies is things like paid parental leave. That the government is proposing to really continue supporting that program. And more importantly, again, for paid parental leave, government wants to include superannuation on that, such that they're not only paid for paid parental leave, but also they pay you super for that, which would make make up quite a difference. Other things that impact things like they want to overhaul child support. Again, these are details to avoid weaponizing the child support scheme. They want to childcare guarantees. So the government is looking at parts of the family's expenditure and seeing how they can support, proposing how they can support in various areas, because the government is aware they can't technically impact the price of groceries per se, because that's market driven. But they're seeing how they can actually put more money in your pocket in the hands of families to be able to really have more purchasing power, so to speak. So those are the initiatives that they're proposing. And the question is what impact they will have. It's yet to be seen, because the key driver at the moment is just this overseas war in the Middle East is having an impact on cost of the supply chain costs, and that's resulting in higher prices, transport, logistics, and even foodstuff. So that is a whole incentive of the government to the budget, but we need to wait until this goes to Parliament and what law is actually passed for us to actually see and speak tangibly of, well, these are the changes coming forward, and maybe you can have another session after that and see what the actual changes are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that part.
Yeah, so technically at the moment we can still prepare, and some of the things are those things that you have mentioned. Like what I realize with most women, they end up like superannuation, for example. Whenever you have a baby, during that period of time you're not working, which means there's nothing being contributed to your super, which is a good initiative in that case if your super will continue being contributed towards that, and that is for your future. So I'm thinking in regards to preparation, what can women do, or if it is to be passed, because we said your disclaimer that the disclaimer is that if it is to be passed. And also I received a question from one mom who who is trying to balance everything, something like childcare guarantee, is it something that will be helping her in terms to, I don't know how old the baby is, but is childcare guarantee something that can help her get financially ahead with this current budget?
Yeah, the childcare guarantee, it's called a 3-day guarantee, the proposed 3-day guarantee, and the details are still going to be divulged. The government is looking at adding more support towards the cost of childcare. There's a radical proposal by, again, this is by an economist, that the government should nationalize childcare the way they nationalize primary school, such that the cost of childcare doesn't fluctuate with the market as it is at the moment, and it becomes a burden to parents. And they actually say that may increase the fertility rate of the country. But that's, again, an economist proposing that. But childcare is one of the biggest costs of households, and the government is always trying to add support in one way or the other. So if this 3-day, what the government is trying to do here is to close that gap, assuming that a child is going to childcare 2-3 days, they want to cover that cost, and therefore, and have a guarantee on that, so that there's no out-of-pocket expense, so to speak. But that again is subject to approval by the parliament. But all these proposals are what we normally say what the government can influence, because once things related to expenditure in that regard of households, because there are things that are outside the government's influence, like price of petrol, etc. They're not the cost of building materials and things like that they have lesser influence on. So yeah, so wait and see. But asking people to keep checking on that and having a look to see, because it's good to see the interest, because this is the first time I've ever spoken to anybody about the budget in this way. But it's quite unbelievable. But it's good to see the world has changed in a big way. It's good to see.
Yeah, like we can it's an interesting aspect where the cost of living, the inflation has gone high. I was reading something and they were saying that they might increase the minimum pay wage. So that was like yesterday. So the minimum person might get a higher pay. I'm not sure how about that, but I know the cost of living has really gone high up for most people. I think everyone can feel it now. And it's more of how we can prepare towards that, or how we can work around that. And we can all, if you have a proposal where you can share how do you manage making your maybe your shopping, anything that you do on your day-to-day life, maybe feel free to share with anyone in the chat, because Justin, we said this is about everyone. And if you have a tip where you shop or something for the other ladies, feel free to share that in the chat, or how you can manage the cost of living at the moment. So Justin, because of the interest of time, we'll continue to the next section, or property and housing. That has been another thing, because the government has been really saying that they want a lot of people to acquire houses. They have been saying about the housing shortage. What does the budget say? And is it now easier to acquire a house, or how is that going?
Excellent. So the topic of housing, I'll maybe touch on saving and then go to housing, because they're one and the same thing, so to speak. And because housing, again, that narrative has changed even in our own community, because also, again, who've been here a while, there was a time in our community when we ourselves discouraged each other from buying a house, because houses were cheaper back home, depending where you come from, Kiambu, Kayole, Mombasa, wherever. So, and also there was a narrative in the community that why buy a house in Australia when rent is so cheap? And that was true. And then something happened, COVID. And all of a sudden, rent skyrocketed, housing supply reduced significantly. And now it became, that narrative completely vanished, such that now being able to acquire properties, actually, if you can, that's actually quite important. Now, before I even touch that, just to mention a few points about, say, for example, saving money, for example. There's some habits that I've noted, not just in our community, but in society in general, that that can hinder you from growing or even aspiring. Because to buy a house, you need to save. And to save, what do you need to look out for, to be able to achieve that goal? First and foremost, in terms of, especially nowadays, and I speak to today's environment, some of the mistakes you need to really avoid when it comes to saving, because saving at the end of the day is you being able to put $1 together with another over a period of time to achieve a certain goal. Things you should really, really look out for nowadays, especially, is debt, specifically credit card, and what I call the buy now, pay never, or buy now, pay later, but I prefer to call it buy now, pay never debt, that people quietly acquire and becomes an affliction, and especially using those types of debts as a safety net, so to speak. So that's something to be very aware of that can really impact your financial position and saving towards anything really, whether it's a house or not. Antisocial financial habits, also something you need to be very careful about, specifically gambling. That is a disease that you need to be very aware of, and it's something that tends to impact adults or teens. Be very mindful of what games teens play, etc., because gambling nowadays is now creeping into younger age to try and make sure they capture a market before 18 in the way of games, and sadly tends to impact more the male gender for some reason overall. Just something to be aware of. Next thing to be mindful of is lifestyle creep, whereby people don't adjust their lifestyle with the financial situation. Where if times get tough, that's natural, you need to adjust lifestyle in accordance to where your financial position is. And don't feel the need to compete or be like others, so to speak. And I know that it's hard sometimes depending on how you grew up, but that can impact how you can save and are able to meet savings goals. This is a big one, because I'm sure none of us here maybe grew up in a household where they spoke regularly about financial literacy. So don't speak up on family finances in the family. Speak up. Talk about it. Though you talk about politics, can you imagine if we talked about financial literacy the way you talk about politics? All of us would be living in Turak. Is that true? But we don't talk that. We prefer to discuss things that we have no impact on, this or that. But financial literacy, make it a normal topic of conversation in the family, and let your children listen and hear to make it normal for them. Something else you need to be mindful of is what I call loyalty tax. Loyalty tax. These are service providers who take customers for granted and charge you more than you should pay. For example, utilities, insurance, internet. Regularly check initiative and shop around, and you'll be surprised how much you can save by making sure that you're not being taken for a ride because you've been in that service provider for 5, 10, whatever years. So be mindful of that. And savings also, one savings tool that has become, or pathway that some people are adopting now, is superannuation. Very broad topic, and I won't touch on it too much today, but people are actually deciding, well, depending on your age, you decide, well, in the next 5, 10 years, I want to achieve a certain amount of savings. Because superannuation, if you remove that word, if you paraphrase superannuation, it means savings for later, for the future. That's what it is. Superannuation is a big word for nothing. So just be mindful. And superannuation, to keep it in simple terms, just be mindful of the platform and the investment. So platform means the company, like a bank, like Westpac or NZ. Investment is where the money is invested by that bank. So the same way you can't say there's a good bank, you can't say there's a good super, because it depends on what you're investing the money for, so to speak. Again, seek financial advice for that. Now, I'll touch on housing because it's important more than ever before. There's there's a lot of support for first home buyers in the market. Just out of three things, just very broadly. The federal government supports, the state government supports. Federal government supports what's called a 5% deposit scheme, where you can buy a house with a minimum 5% deposit, which is very generous. There's a family guarantee scheme where single parents can actually, with dependents, can acquire a home for up to a 2 or 3% deposit. There's a help to buy scheme where you and the government can co-own the property, and you can reduce your mortgage in that regard. That third one, just be careful with it, because it's one thing for the government to support you with lower deposit, but to co-own an asset with them, just need to go in there with your eyes wide open a bit. And thirdly, the state government, they support in way of cash boosts, first homeowners grant, and stamp duty, where they give you a discount depending on how much you buy the house for. There's also a super saver scheme where you can accumulate savings via the super. Again, that's something that can be discussed offline, where you can allow to, over and above the normal super, you can accumulate more for the purposes of buying a house. A question I get often is, what should families understand before taking large homes or mortgages? One is the real cost of debt. Loan repayments are more than rent, so just be mindful and aware of that. That interest rates change, etc. So loan repayments are more than rent. Secondly is financially stress yourself. Financial stress testing. Can you afford the loan repayments if rates go up, payments increase? You need to just sort of make sure you just be mindful of that or aware of that you stress test yourself. And just impact on life and flexibility. When you take on a mortgage, this is one of the things back in the day was used to discourage people from buying houses. That, don't buy a mortgage, don't take a mortgage because you take 40 years to pay it off or whatever. And that was true and not true, because the average life of a home loan in Australia is about 12 to 15 years. Not the full 30 years. People tend to pay more than they're required to, but a mortgage does indeed impact your lifestyle. It can just make sure you change the mindset that you have to. It's not a house you can just move out tomorrow. You have to actually. It's an asset for the future, and also in discipline in how you manage your mortgage repayments can impact your relationship. It can bring strain if one party is, because people grow up differently, or they're different. So just be mindful that can be, make sure you talk together and are on the same page before you jump on that boat. And also, one last thing to mention is liquidity. Housing wealth is usually locked up and it's difficult to access when you want to, quickly access money for, maybe there's a crisis. You can't just sell your house and send money to Kenya for ABCD, so to speak. So just be mindful of that. And that at least covers holistically in terms of housing, and just in simple terms, but something that can at least people to think about.
Yeah, and with the current budget, has it become more affordable? Especially like we have two different kind of people here. We have those who want to get into their first house, and we have another group that are looking into investment of property. And I would just like you to just touch a little bit. And I'll just, in that regards, I have a question from one of my community women, and they were asking a question in regards to around buying property during seasons like maternity leave or reduced income, and what factors should they consider before making that decision. And I think you really described a lot of factors that you can consider when you're making that decision, but how easy will they be? Maybe, for example, the bank give them the money if they're on maternity leave, or would they approve their mortgage loans?
So in terms of when you're on maternity leave, some banks do have a policy whereby if you're guaranteed to get your job back, when you go back, they take a letter from the employer as proof of income. and are happy to assess you based on that income. So yes, you can acquire property when you're on maternity leave, but the bank has to fit the bank policy. And usually the policy relates directly to, will you go back to your job? And is there written evidence of that? And they'll ask for it. So, and that has happened, where there was a doctor. We have a Kenyan who's married to someone of a different nationality, an African, and the lady was on maternity leave, and that letter was available, and they're able to. So they do consider that's a bank policy in several big banks. So you just have to make sure you check with the bank whether that is acceptable. So just to answer the question, yes, you can, with conditions. Just to answer that question. So, and also whether in terms of the budget and property investment, it's one of the hot topics of the budget, where the government is proposing changes to tax for property investors, specifically what's called negative gearing and capital gains tax, or CGT. And that's a very hotly contested item because it directly impacts household wealth, because those are two things that investors have been an incentive for people to invest in investment properties, not on occupy investment. Again, these are proposals that let go to Parliament, and maybe not even worth discussing now, because I have a feeling they'll not quite go through as the government says. There'll be a fight on that because it impacts. And the whole point of the government is to try and help people, first home buyers, etc., and price of houses, but many are not convinced. So let's park that for now. But let's wait for the parliamentary debate. It'll be Netflix on Parliament. I tell you, very entertaining. I look forward to it.
Yeah, we just keep post on that because it has caused a lot of noise in general. So, and maybe we might have another session like this after what will be passed after this budget. And there's a person who was asking, I know you mentioned that usually when you go to the bank and get your loan approved, it goes up to 30 years. But I had a question from one of the community ladies, and she was asking, how can you pay off your mortgage quicker? Because you mentioned that you can even pay it between 12 and 15 years. What are some tips that women can use to actually pay their mortgage faster?
Yeah, good question. So firstly is to the simple tips there are firstly, make sure that you have what's called an offset account, for example. You make sure that you can have an account that whereby offsets the interest payable on the loan. Others pay their loans instead of monthly, they do it fortnightly or weekly, just to really pay down the balance quicker. Discipline is a big part, whereby any lump sums you get, you're able to put into the loan. For example, when you submit a tax return, you get that lump sum instead of splurging it on clothes and shoes, put it into the mortgage. Others, depending on their living situation, if you're boarding a room or whatever in the house, that money you're getting, put it into the mortgage, because these are things that other communities do to do so. So those are some of the tips you can do to just reduce and make sure that over and above the minimum repayment, always make sure that you're really able to pay above that and look at it as a long-term strategy to really amortize debt or reduce debt as quickly as you can, because debt is good, and debt is there's and I'll touch on that again. Debt can be good, bad, and ugly, so to speak. But the whole point is to make sure that you have the product features right of that home loan. You make sure you don't fall into the trap, even for a home loan, because a home loan is a service provider. Make sure you don't fall into the loyalty trap with your home loan, where your bank takes you for granted. They increased your rates, you didn't know, you're paying hard, and so and so. Keep an eye on, be vigilant about it. Pay it as frequently as you can, and make sure you have your day-to-day banking is linked to that account to make sure you're reducing any interest payable. Small tips that you can be able to use to make sure you pay off that debt as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Justin. And if you're finding the session impactful, maybe you can just leave us a comment there. We continue to the next session that was really asked by a lot of women, and this is building wealth. And first, I would like you to speak to this woman who we have a mixed community here. Some of them, they are still on transitioning to their permanent residency, or they're still in their temporary visas, and everyone wants to build wealth as a woman. And how can they do it from that area where they are like, I'm on this journey of building wealth, but most likely I cannot even acquire a house in Australia at the moment. What can I be doing now, and what are the mindset and what are the strategies they can use now before they get into their permanent residence?
So it's good to acknowledge that there are people on different journeys here, different pathway, different seasons. And for someone really, regardless how long you've been here, whether it's 1 week or 1 year or 10 years, if you're still on that journey where you're looking at starting to, build wealth, as you call it, or build savings, some things that you need to, there's some habits you need. Habits define the future. Habits are very important, and the financial habits that you need to have, some some I'll talk about, and some you need to be aware of. To be able to grow that, financial position, let me call it, from 0 to 1 to 10 to 15. First, make sure that, because the biggest trap with money is not the money in, it's the money out. That's the biggest trap. Money in is easy. Kenyans are very good with money in. We earn money like no other community, Look for it, shifts, whatever, but the money out is the issue. So it is very important to start from anywhere and have what I would call a practical and realistic budget. Practical, realistic. Make sure it's realistic, because if it's not realistic, then you'll not meet it. Then you will lose confidence and say budgets don't work, yet they do. So it's the money out, first and foremost, you need to be very careful of. That's the one that I find is often the trap with our community and many others, not just ours, the money out, and especially in society today. The next thing that I find is important is what I call autopilot savings. The habit that most people have is they earn $1, they spend first, then save. Actually, it should be you earn, save first, then spend. So the save should be autopilot. Not a decision to talk about, think about, no, it just be happening automatically. Simple step, very important, big difference. Next one, very important. Debt management. I covered this a bit previously, where you need to make sure you audit and unsecured and high interest outstanding debts, namely credit cards, buy now, pay later. Those ones will cripple you financially forever. Keep a very close eye on them and audit them carefully. Do you need them? Avoid buy now, pay later if you can, and especially avoid buy now, pay never for essential goods, groceries, etc. That's because that gives you a mindset of you'll use it all the time. So just be very mindful of that. In any debt, you should have the aim of paying it down. Whether it's money I lent to Anne, or money I borrowed from Anne, or a home loan with Westpac Bank. Doesn't matter, car loan, whatever. Just make sure that the aim is to pay it down. Now, debts, simple terms, good, bad, and ugly debt. There are good debts, they say, which is true. Debts where you borrow money for appreciating assets. Example, house. There are bad debts. These are debts where you borrow money for the first one is appreciating assets. This one is for depreciating assets, like a vehicle. So next time you see someone, driving a nice car, and they owe money on it, just know that it's not really, it's It's only a nice car. The bank owns 70% of it. Maybe gurudumu maybe peke yake ndio yake. So depreciating assets, be very mindful of that, especially nowadays. What's a car anyway, So it should be for practical use, whether for you or the family, but not something to drive around and so people can see you. Those days are over, well and truly. Next thing is ugly debt. This way you borrow money, believe it or not, for lifestyle. Example, holiday. Unbelievable. I'm going to Thailand, Queensland, I'll borrow money from the bank. Really? So those are the three types of debts to really be mindful of, and just make sure that you don't fall into the trap of, especially the last one. Next one is just to optimize idle cash. You started saving, very good. You have an emergency fund, very good. And the money is not sitting in a high interest account. Just make sure you optimize that cash and move it to an account that earns you interest. Other thing to do is just review your recurring bills, as I mentioned before. Make sure you're looking at utilities, insurance, internet. That's important. This last one happens in many communities and people need to be, it's more of an awareness, is to make sure you can identify and avoid and seek help from financial abuse. This is where financial abuse basically is where you have someone controlling or preventing you to access to household money. And it can be coercing or forcing you to get loans, etc. That can have a significant detrimental impact on a person, especially ladies. Because you're all adults here, I hope, there's a term I'll throw around because it's something that when I heard first in the bank, I was in the bank for 20 years, and the first heard of it, I was quite, my jaw dropped. There's a term that of financial abuse called STD. Now, most of you know what STD is. The first two and what you're thinking is correct. The last one is not disease, it is debt. So, STD is basically where someone becomes legally liable for either an ex-partner's debt out of a romantic relationship. And there are people who take advantage of that as predators. It can take you years paying back debt that you never really benefited from the proceeds of. So be mindful of that because it actually happens. So I think I'll just mention that first before I go into, because there's things I can talk about moms and their kids, etc., and money. So let me just stop there for a second, Anne, and maybe you can,
That's a very interesting perspective. And also knowing that you don't need to leave your money lying in just the normal bank, because we are saying the cost of living is going high, but then if you don't place your money in a place where it's growing and serving you, then you'll end up paying for both sides. You pay for the inflation and also pay with your money that will go down in value with time. I'll just speak into my heart went for this woman, and I'll just like to address something that she mentioned. And it was in regards to, I'm just trying to get that question. Just give me 1 second. My income shifts from 2K a fortnight to 1K or less. What are practical way that I can spend, save, or invest? And I know you mentioned more on to a person who already has established their money and they have a set, they are earning good money, and I know most people are able to try and work around their shift works and they can get significant amount. But speak to this woman who has this because of her situation. Might be she's not able to earn more. What is her situation, or is there any tips that you can give her that will help her in these regards?
In that scenario, without knowing what the bigger picture, so that's a situation where someone's income has reduced by half. which is significant. And there now the key thing for her really would be have the expenses reduced by half also. That's the key thing there. So when you have a situation where income has dropped by that much, then really should really need to look at just the money out part and make sure that she really trims down that money out to the point where it is now matching the reality of the current income. That may mean an adjustment of lifestyle. It may mean an adjustment of her company, because the one thing that I find impacts financial position a lot that's unspoken often is the company one keeps. If none of your 5 closest friends really manage their money well, chances are you'll be in the same position. So, but for her, again, just so company matters in a big way, especially the close company around you. So for her, the money out part is very important, and she just needs to make sure she adjusts her new reality accordingly, because it's doable. It may change where she's shopping, what she's buying, is she eating out less, it could be a blessing in disguise, just being able to adjust that lifestyle, because when her situation improves, because she's adjusted to that reality of half an income, that may help her with savings in the long term, because she'll have more, her disposable income will increase. So, but that's sort of the advice I would give without knowing the bigger picture in that regard.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I know our time is really gone. We are at 8:55. I'm wondering if the ladies would like us, if they are happy for us to extend a little bit, maybe up to 9:30, because we still have a few questions to cover. I'm not sure. If please give me a chat in the box, say yes if you'd love us to continue extending. And also, Justin, are you available to extend a little bit?
Yes, I guess I can. Give me a second. Yes, I can. Give me a moment. I'll just put my headphones on.
The ladies also are saying yes, thank you so much. I've heard. Or just put your thumbs up. I'll just see it and see if we can continue a little bit. I have a few questions that were asked from my community, and I would love us to. Oh yeah, we have a lot of. Okay, good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good, very good. Yes, you can continue. So.
Yeah, just because you mentioned on SUPA, I'll go back to something that you mentioned in SUPA, and because I had a question in regards to that. I have 2 questions in SUPA, and one of the question was, how can women, or how can us maximize our SUPA over time? Another question was, this was a young woman who is on carer breaks, and she's on maternity leave. And also we had a women between 40s and 50s. What should they prioritize now to improve the retirement outcome later? And I think it will be in regards to SUPA. So, and we also had what should women look for when choosing a SUPA fund? So if you can be able, did you get all the questions? One is, how can a woman maximize her SUPA over time? And the other one is around, and this is a woman who is on maternity leave or career breaks. And another thing is, what are you choosing when you're looking at SUPA? I think you really mentioned on that. And the next one is women between 40s and 50s. What can they prioritize to improve their retirement outcome later?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Anne?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, okay, good. So with SUPA, it's a very broad question, and one that I'll just share general information and maybe share experiences of what others do to really an approach to superannuation. So SUPA, the first thing to change is the mindset of SUPA in terms of what it is. So I normally say remove the word SUPA and put savings in future. And what some of the best practices I've seen people do with superannuation is one, to even just to care about it, not to simply money is deducted and forget about it. So just be a bit be proactive about your own, because it's your money at the end of the day. Secondly, is just to be self-aware of what general incentives are available from the government on super. For example, one is being able to contribute 30,000, what are called concessional contributions per year. Now, concessional contribution is what the government allows you to put in a given year individually. And you can do over and above that, but that's called non-concessional. Without going into too much details, but the magic number this financial year moving forward is 30,000. So for you, it's good to know, okay, if you're earning 100,000 in general terms, the 12% is deducted from you. So that means 12%, 12,000 is going to super in general terms. So aware that, oh, okay, that 12,000 can go up to 30 by what's called, say, for example, salary sacrifice. So just that awareness that that is available and that reduces how much tax you pay is something that people don't seem to be actually aware that, and it's available just as general information, even on the internet, but it's something that you can do to reduce your tax you pay and accumulate the super quicker and to be able to really salary sacrifice. Because the same way you salary sacrifice for a car, you can salary sacrifice for superannuation and increase how much you're contributing towards it. So it's a straightforward and easy step to be able to increase that super, and also just change the mind sheet for super. Again, avoid the loyalty tax. Look at the statements. So with super, people look at gender terms, two things. People look at many things, but I'll keep it simple. Two things: the platform and the investment. Platform, which company is it? Second, which investment? So, and what generates you and just go out and compare super. And I think Anne shared a tool on that on different platforms. Have a look and see. And from there, just be aware that super is for the long term. Super is not something to do, every month you're changing, flipping. No, it's there for the next 10, 20, 30 years, depending on how old you are. So, but do not take it for granted, because I normally say in this country, there's two assets you need to have to really have dignified sunset years. That's the word to use. Number one is a primary residence, where you have you're calling your home, your house, you have your own home. As my late mother used to say, God bless her soul, that when you have your own house, even if you eat ugali and water only in the house, it's like eating nyama and sukuma wiki, because it's your own house. Just metaphor.
Justin, when you went on mute.
Sorry. The second asset to have is superannuation, because the purpose of super is to give you an income stream in sunset years. Now, some people say that, I'll use my super to buy a house, this and no. The purpose of super is to give you an income stream in your sunset years. So primary residence and super, that gives you should give you a dignified life in sunset years. So that's just in general terms how to look at superannuation, changing the mindset, be proactive in terms of getting your statements, have a look, log in, have a look and see how it's going, and be consistent. Very important. Consistent. If you have a plan, stick to it. Have a plan, stick to it. Because it's not, much as super is complicated, it can be simple. Just stick to one plan, make sure the platform is right, the investment is right, have a 5-10 year plan. So just in simple terms, and that's how I would look at superannuation.
Yeah, and that will cut across all the ages. Either you are in between 40 and 50, whether you are young, all that information I think can help every woman across all the ages. So just a quick update is that we're already at 9 o'clock, and there's a link that has been sent in the group. If you're actually exiting, it would be nice if you can leave us a feedback and also your email, so that once we finish this recording, we can know where to send that. Because there's a person who said email us the recording, please. So please share your feedback if you're leaving, and for those who are able to continue, I really appreciate, because the next topic that we'll be looking is the future opportunity that we have as women, or what we can do as women for future opportunities. And so thank you so much for those who are actually chatting in the group. There's someone who said, Justin, I'll just read that comment. The gap of women is always higher compared to men when they retire with their super. And for obvious reason, because women tend to stay back home, looking after their kids, they have maternity leaves, and hopefully with this budget and with the incentive, if it is passed, it will be nice for women, to be better for women in that area of super. The next area that I wanted us to focus on, Justin, was in regards to our future opportunities. And first I would like to look into one of the biggest sector that have been touched during this budget, and that is NDIS. And given that most of our community tend to be in that industry, most likely due to the flexibility and what is happening, it's more flexible, and maybe it's more welcoming in terms of, in general, in NDIS, and it has really been touched during this budget. And what I want us to look into, should people now prepare, or is there any adjustment they can do in regards to where they are working, or are there other industries that have been increased in terms of how much money will be allocated to them that women can be able to go into? Or what would you say? Because I just want you to touch more on NDIS, because I know we have most of the ladies here who are in NDIS sector, and what does that mean to them if the money is reduced, or will it not have any effect?
Good question. So again, I'll be just in general terms, and so government is proposing an overhaul of the NDIS system, and reducing the participants over the next several years into a program they're calling Thriving Kids. It's proposals that, yes, there's much needed reform required in the NDIS, but this proposal by government, even by their own admission, they're very high level. They're not really, it's a proposal, and it's yet to be tested on the floor of Parliament to see what exactly these changes mean. Because yes, they've talked about reducing the number of participants, etc., transitioning them to what they call Thriving Kids, etc. But over and above that, I want to see actually this proposal to be subjected to interrogation in Parliament to inform, and that's why I find most debate is more on the property side, not NDIS, because the changes are very much high level. We're thinking it's like almost an aspiration. We want to do this, okay, but what are the details? Oh, we'll tell you later. You know, we want to reduce this and that by 2030, reduce participants by X number by 2030, etc. And I'm like, okay, then this new program called Thriving Kids, what does it mean? Because there's, how does that look like? Oh, we'll tell you later, So it's very gray at the moment. And I don't think there should be any reason for panic for now, to be honest, because if there were details, we would know about them. But they're not. It's simply a high-level proposal, and I don't think anyone should be really concerned at the moment about the government proposal. That's a key word there, proposal. Because from that, it needs to be been tested in Parliament, interrogated, then we'll hear about, okay, what was it about really? So for now, let's just continue as normal, to be honest, and continue working hard, and because that industry really supported our community.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's good. And I think it's more of like, let's not panic. But if something changes, of course, we'll be here. Also, we can still have this platform again and see what those changes actually mean for us and how we can prepare strategically if it is to be passed. Another thing that this is a question from my community, and they were asking about is there any meaningful funding that has been allocated towards women health, such as menopause support, endometriosis, contraception, IVF, and just the broader health access that women need in their lives?
Yeah, that one I didn't see anything per se that stood out in that regard in terms of women's health per se. And I'm not sure where was the lady coming from, I'm trying to understand where she was. We see just in general women's health because overall
Maybe you
government
can mention on general. Did they say anything in regards to
Yeah, they
women?
mentioned that these funding pillars for what I call the government proposed. There's menopause support. They allocated over 20 million, contraception support, reproductive, maternal health. So it was over and above. There's nothing new per se that the government announced. They simply announced more funding. Now, where this funding goes, that's again high level. And yes, there's, and all those things you mentioned, intramural access, etc. There's additional funding for that. That's maybe what I can mention. There's additional funding for all aspects of women's health. The question is, what's a trickle-down effect? How will that impact? Where is it going? So hopefully that is that will come when again it's interrogated in Parliament and the final draft is released.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin. And what I can hear you say, especially because I know the most questions that we had was why in regard to building of wealth, property, and also there was a question in regards to tax and more on tax. And I think you mentioned that in your when you are talking about the tax reduction that might be happening. And generally we have said that these are just proposed. We don't have the actual details on how it will look like, the bigger picture. We just have the high level proposal and we don't have the bigger picture on how it is gonna be. So at the moment, what you have said is let's focus on what we can do now. And what we can do now is more on if it is building your wealth, look at your saving. How are you saving? What's your discipline and where are you putting your money after you save? If it is in terms, because everything has trickled down to your habits, your mindset, and also knowing what you want to build first. I think that is one thing that I really encourage most women. What do you really want to build? Because if you don't know what you want to build, then there's no way you can be able to save for that thing that you don't know. So being aware, and also Justin has really mentioned on what has been eating on our finances. And one big thing that you have mentioned that actually has been a wow factor for me is that the abuse, and it really happens to women. What did you call STD? Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, the abuse. So
yes,
that has really
maybe we learned today, but anyway, good to learn.
which it's a different one. I knew it in the nursing aspect, but now I know it in the financial aspect, and that
Correct.
is really important for women to be aware of, especially if you come overseas. Is something that you can actually, there are helplines that can help you in regards to financial abuse. You can always speak up, and having those platforms that you can speak up or people you can go to can be very helpful for you. So Justin, I'd just like you to give us what would be your last shots, or what can you tell the women?
Yes. Just before Justin speaks, there's a question on the chat box by Margaret.
Yes.
She's asking, hey Justin, I would like advice regarding paying life insurance through Super. Is it advisable? And also Joyce wanted to be is interested in knowing that question as well.
Yes, in terms of superannuation within super, yes, you can pay two insurances through in super by law, life insurance and what's called TPD, total permanent disability. So yes, that's something you would need to contact your superannuation company. And the advantage to paying it in super is again depends on, you have to seek financial advice for this. Just to giving you general information is that you're paying it within that superannuation environment, so it's after it's the money is already in super. You're not paying using after tax dollars outside super. You're paying the funds inside super. So I do it myself and many people do, and it comes by default unless you opt out. But yes, but then for whether it suits you or not, that's something you need to check with your advisor. But it's a common practice that those two particular insurances, life and TPD, are paid within super. And just to touch on, hopefully that answers that in terms of future planning. Two things I didn't mention, just to quickly mention, is what should mom teach their children about money, whether it's now or into the future? And a couple of things to mention is it's important to teach our children about the value of money. Take them shopping, let them see what things cost, and especially teens, very important. Priorities, teach them needs and wants and the difference. Needs being housing, electricity, and wants being video games and branded shoes. Also teach them about the danger of instant gratification. That's what unsecured debts rely on: credit cards and buy now, pay never. Instant gratification. I want it now. I'll have it now, rather than I'll save for it. Now, that's a very important lesson to learn, and I've spoken about this even in rite of passage for both boys and girls, because that is a lifelong vicious habit, and adults can become, and if not checked, the child can become an adult who struggles with managing money in the future. That can impact their well-being. It can impact their future families and their mental health. So instant gratification is something you really need to be very mindful of. Something else with your kids is what you call intentional allocation. Maybe if you have managers at home, have one for save, give, and spend. Let them put money in there and get to understand, which falls where, and the importance of saving and spending, what to spend and what to give. That's important for as an early age to teach kids that those are the three jars that they'll have to put money in for most of their life. Final thing to teach kids is just financial self-reliance and just strategic earning. At all times, good times or bad times. Teach kids to not to rely on a single stream of income, whether it's pocket money or waiting things to be handed down to them. Let them let kids take the initiative, take income earning self-initiative at an early age, especially in this country. It goes a long way to helping them change their mindset about where money comes from and the value of it, so to speak. Lastly, is just to areas where maybe family should pay close attention to over the next few years. First thing is inflation and lifestyle. So I mentioned lifestyle before. It's a big thing. It's funny, as a young person, seeing a luxury car really used to impress me, but my goodness, nowadays, I just laugh and, you drive a big car in front of me, I feel nothing. So now, because I know I'm wiser, I know that I can classify assets, so to speak. So lifestyle is very important. And inflation is where something costs $1 today and it's $1.05 tomorrow. That's creeping up. So that's something to really keep an eye on. I mentioned property, which is good. With property, time flies. It's never too late to really save for you to buy your own house in this country. You live here, especially those who have long-term plans of living here. Invest where you live. And I know you want to buy plots in Kayole, Kangundo, and Kawasukari, and Soda Baridi. You can do all that, but always remember to invest where you live. Very important. Maximize on government incentives, or even workplace allowances. Some of your workplaces give you allowances. Maximize on them. Other communities are milking them to the bone. So make sure, if the government has an incentive you hear of, maximize on it. Superannuation 30,000, understand what that means for you. And you can check it on MyGov. Log into MyGov and see, okay, how much have I put super this year? I've put 10,000. I can put a bit more in there to save on tax, be mindful of that. And also something to consider is just long-term family financial milestones, where you plan ahead for kids' milestones, whether it's childcare, primary school, high school, extracurricular. Often I see many parents in our community, because they didn't grow up doing extracurricular, it's very common, by the way, they don't let their kids do extracurricular activities. When I was growing up, I didn't do basketball. Look, and I turned out okay. I didn't do this, I didn't do that. It's actually very wrong, because extracurricular is part of holistic growth of the child. So, and you have to plan for the cost of that. So that's a milestone to plan for. And again, this is very long term, something to plan at the back of your mind, which many of you here maybe didn't get, is what we call intergenerational wealth, something for your kids to inherit. So all this we're doing here is make sure that our kids don't start from zero, like maybe many of you did, You have to start from scratch, your parents left you 2 goats and 1 chicken, so, and you have to start, and that's fine. And here you are. So, but make sure that the next generation, you don't leave them with 2 goats and 1 chicken. It'll be a shame, Leave them with something to speak of, Again, that's something to plug at the back of your mind, that it's a bigger picture goal. That, yeah. And again, dignity in old age. There are many community members in our community who are, you'd call that retirement age or approaching that. And some are concerned, some are not, Those who are concerned financially, there's a real reason. You can imagine if you're in this country, you're 60 plus, 65, and you're in financial hardship, it can be scary, because now you have to work until what age? And which jobs are you going to allow? Which jobs in future will hire you at that age? So, and the body will be a different body then. So anyway, food for thought. But overall, thanks guys for attending. Thanks, Anne, for the initiative, and barikiwe sana. It's good to always inform the community. Information
And
is
before you just wind up, because one of my biggest interests is on raising financially aware kids, whereby we are not taught how to manage money, and now we have kids, and if we continue with the same routine, they become the same as we were. That is one area that I really focus on, is raising kids who are financially aware. And you mentioned about planning ahead and all those things, but in the budget there was this thing that has really raised a lot of question, which was trust. And I remember there's one person who raised about that. I'm not sure if that is something that we can discuss now, because most people use trust to leave the wealth to their kids. And even before the wealth that you leave to your kids, the most important is what you leave inside their kids, the habits, how you speak about money, what do you show them in regards to how you manage your money. Because if you don't do it, your kids cannot be able to do the same in their life. But there is one thing that is really major for parents, which is where people put money in trust and then they divide it to their kids. And it is something that has been debated alongside during this budget. I'm not sure if you can just mention in just 1 minute. I know you cannot be able to, it is a very deep topic and you cannot be able to discuss it as well as much, but can you just give that piece to that woman who asked about it?
Yeah, of course, yes. So trusts are a legal structure. You can have many of those. You can have a company where you have Anne Murray, the Proprietor Limited. You can have a trust where you have Anne Murray, the Family Trust, linked to that company. And all trusts must have what you call a trustee, which is a legal entity like a company. So many people who are small business owners, or even wealthy and not so wealthy, they have always used the trust structure, especially for having income within it, because it allows you to distribute that profit and to various family members, you, your children, your spouse, etc. And because of that, if, say, for example, $1 earned in the trust, you could distribute to many people, the government feels over the years it's been missing income or tax income from it. So because of that, they want to actually tax the trust structure, and that's created a lot of issues in the community, especially in the business people, because they're saying that's a punitive tax, considering all the other taxes they pay. So that proposal is one of the ones that I think will not succeed because of the impact on all demographics of the community, rich and middle class. Because there's many businesses out there that have a trust structure and will be very tax effective in that regard. So I think let's pause and see how that goes. Hopefully it doesn't go through, or if it does, at a very much lower tax rate. But to tax trusts is a game changer because the government is saying if you have a company only, you're taxed at 20-something%, but a trust is zero because the money is distributed to all the benefits. So for now, let's not panic. That's basically where the government is coming from, wanting to get access to a tax base that they've missed out over decades. And but it is causing issues with especially businesses that say that they're employing people who actually in their businesses who, if they're taxed, may have to let go because and may have an impact, a ripple effect on the economy. So again, that's one I think that may not go through, but let's wait and see. That's what that proposal is about.
Mom, can I take the medicine? My throat is itchy.
Thank you so much, Justin. And I think the information has been I know we could not be able to tackle every topic in depth. And that's why I would just request everyone who is joining, please help us do the feedback form. And that will help us know which area would you like us to speak about maybe next time, and what more information would you love us to talk about, because it really helps us to narrow down, because we had a lot of topic. And Justin, thank you for being able to handle all those topics in a very simple. I know you are very financially, you speak financial language, but today you have been doing amazing. You have been speaking in a very simple language, and I'm sure most of us can really relate with what Justin was talking about. And please help us do that feedback form. We'll be able to see what next week can offer. In a few weeks, on 10th of June, same Wednesday, I'll be offering a same information session with a lady who has been able to pay her mortgage within 7 years. So please join me on 10th. She has been able to pay her mortgage within 7 years, and we would like to analyze what are the strategies and how did she manage to pay her mortgage with 7 years. And Justin said it is possible. So if you have 30-year mortgage, it doesn't mean that you have to stay 30 years stuck with the bank and bank taking advantage of your tax. But if you get in there earlier, the better for you. So Justin, thank you so much. Do you have your last words? And I know there was a question raised in the group. I'm not sure if we'll be able to answer that. Sarah, is there any question that has been raised in the group?
Yes.
Another question?
There are few.
Few?
Yeah. The one is iPhone. I don't know. Basically iPhone.
Yeah.
What would you advise on using super to invest in real estate? Pros and cons about that. And then the other one is, what is the other one? Yeah, the other one was just asking about life insurance, but you had already talked about it. I think, yeah, this is about investing in real estate when you're using your super.
So again, general terms, because that is a matter that need a financial advisor to look at your personal situation. So the answer to that is yes, you can buy residential and commercial property in your super here in Australia. And you can, for residential, it must be investment. You cannot live in it. For commercial, it can be both investment and the property you're actually working, the commercial property. So it can be either or. So that's again a strategy the government brought in early 2010s. And we used to do a lot of them in Westpac, and a few community members in here, and a few of our community members, Kenyans, have actually those assets in their super, where you go to a bank and use the money in super as a deposit to buy a house, get a debt, pay off the house and keep that property in super as part of diversification, etc. So that is something that needs personal advice to see whether it suits you, because it may or may not suit everybody. Very, very important to say. So, but yes, you can. The simple answer is yes. Does it suit me? Talk to an advisor, please.
Thank you so much. And I think there will be a link for my Facebook group. If Isaac, you can help me put the link in the group. If you'd like us to connect with us more, we have a Facebook group for mostly for women, and I've seen men join it, but I tend to remove them. But because my focus is more on women financial growth. So thank you, Justin, for tonight. I really appreciate it. And we just need to remember as women that financial growth is not an overnight kind of success. That's where we fall into scamming and things like get rich quick schemes, because we think of it as one night and perfection kind of thing, but it is a long-term growth, and knowing that you're actually heading there gives you so much peace. And that is something that we do at Mindful Family and Wealth, making sure that your wealth is growing, but you have peace as you're growing your wealth. And if you want to join us in our Facebook group, I do live session here on some days, and you can actually gain more wealth in there, and you can actually also ask questions. And thank you for those who have answered our feedback, and we'll continue offering you these sessions, and we really appreciate your time. You are highly valuable. And thank you also for those who are engaging in the chat. I really appreciate your time. So bye for today.